Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. We have Mario, Ian and Craig with us.
And you, just back from, I have to bring this up, just back from the hosting the US roster announcement, which must have been one of the highlights of your career.
Absolutely, it really was.
I mean, I tell you what, the excitement levels, I was sitting here, I was checking my phone, I just couldn't.
Bet you were. I knew you would be. It's right up there with another event I hosted twice.
With Ballon d'Or. Are you hoping to host the roster announcement a couple of times if they do indeed get to the World? Well, they will get to the World Cup in 2026.
They absolutely will.
Because it's here.
Yes.
Free ticket.
Hey, we'll see.
You'll be there. You'll be there waving your American flag.
Ian Darke's an English voice on the US.
I'm not going to bring up Ian's call of that game.
Well, it was a very proud moment for me, shall I say.
Ian, you've not been over here for a while. What's happening?
Oh, what's happening with what, Craig? I wanted to know from Kay. Kay, can you solve the Zach Steffen mystery for us, since you were there at the announcement of the squad? He was very, very elusive about why one of the goalkeepers wasn't there. We didn't get an explanation.
It's interesting, and this is why you should watch Football Americas. He hints that there is something, though. He hints that there will be opportunities for a game. And I think he says something along the lines of if he gets his head together. It's not. He doesn't literally say get his head together, but there's something that he says that hints that there's something more to it.
I didn't. We only saw clips because we were doing our own show when you were down there, Billy, big time with a big time waving. ESPN FC. Who are they? We don't care, right? I'm here now. Here, it's me. And when you were down there, so one of the clips I saw, and I really couldn't give a stuff, it bores me to tears.
But you were watching?
No, I saw this clip because we ran it in the show. I had no choice. I tried to get off. I tried to get up here and run out the door, but it was Greg Berhalter saying, and I told you this earlier, and this is managers, and some people pick up on it, some don't, talking about Matt Turner and how he's progressed. He's really progressed in the last 6 months. I mean, who's buying that? Matt Turner has been a really good goalkeeper at New England Revolution, coached by one of my best friends, Kevin Hitchcock, but has got his move to Arsenal. He hasn't played because of Aaron Ramsdale.
Europa League.
Huh?
Europa League.
So, what I'm saying, how do you progress when you're sitting on the bench 99% of the time, right? That's what I'm saying. So please don't tell us he's progressed in the last 6 months. He's probably progressed in the last 2 or 3 years to where he is now, getting the move to Arsenal. But he hasn't progressed in the last 6 months because he's been sitting on his backside.
Well, we'll find out.
That's the only thing that I got from that.
Supporting the US in this World Cup.
That's the only thing I took from that roster, because the rest of it, couldn't care less. Biggest lot of nonsense I've ever heard. I can say that now because I've had it. It's been broadcast. I'm not affecting the figures. Whatever.
Okay, it's not go USA from Craig, it's no USA.
No, because I take Ian out to. Dan and I like to take Ian out and get him a few beverages when he comes over.
Yeah, I've been out with Ian Darke when he's been over.
He loves a night out, Ian.
He does.
Yeah. And I never mentioned the word go once, did I?
All right, the first question for the panel. Sorry. Which World Cup, excluding France, has the highest possibility of imploding due to locker room issues? Mario, how's the Dutch dynamic this year?
Oh, it's good. I think Van Gaal implemented a kind of group in the sense of like everybody gets on really well, and I think that's one of the key things. And look, I think all nations have that a little bit. We all have a go at our national team. I think it becomes like a trend because each country that I go to, I'm surprised it's happening all the time. But away from that, he picked people that could hang out and really feel comfortable being around each other for 5 weeks. And he made that clear too, because he announced that way of talking.
I love excluding France.
We had well, I can tell you, we had an unbelievable, over the years I was with Scotland, we had an unbelievably strong dressing room, and that's one of the reasons we were so unsuccessful. To be honest with you.
But you drink it together.
I thought I'd get that in there before somebody else did. But yeah, we actually did have a very good dressing room, but that's not why we get knocked out of the World Cup. But it is important. I think the French, I mean, put it one way, if it was a race, a falling out competition, it's not even a race, is it? The French have lapped the field. And not only the players, their parents,
I knew you were going to
family members. I mean, when it comes to that, family members arguing with each other up in the stands, allegedly about stuff, I mean, that's just nonsense, isn't it?
Which is why they had to be excluded from
What
the
about
question.
the French at the 2010 World Cup? When I was down there in South Africa, when under Raymond Domenech. Oh, good grief, that was a mutiny.
Yep.
So
we'll see what we get this time around. Yeah.
Who else? Right, what other team? I'm going to say... well, it's not going to be Spain, because who got sacked? It was Lopetegui, wasn't it, on the eve? Mm-hmm. Right, can't be them.
Yeah.
Can't be them.
Iran sacked the bloke who got them qualified. He'd won 15 of the last 18 matches in September, 2 months before the competition, because some players wanted him and some players didn't want him, and they had the chance to get Carlos Queiroz to be in charge. This is in the USA's group, of course, in England's group as well. So Queiroz, having failed to get Egypt and Colombia through the qualification, will be at the World Cup, even if Colombia and Egypt won't be. He'll be there with Iran. So there's a possibility of a dressing room divide, if ever there was one.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
There you go.
Not big into my Iranian football.
Here's a World Cup one. Craig, were World Cup games more nervy for you than any other big games? Did you feel added pressure? Did you approach the World Cup games differently?
No, I didn't approach them differently. I don't think any of my colleagues did, but it's a difficult one. I mean, when you're playing in the opening game of the World Cup, as we did as Scotland did in '98 against the reigning champions at the Stade de France, and back then that was also the opening ceremony as well, so the full shebang. And we had a pretty good side, to be honest with you, but they were lined up, not missing out a few, but it was Taffarel and who's the left back from Real Madrid? I should know, I've played against him.
When?
The left back from Real Madrid, it was playing for Brazil at the time.
Roberto
Carlos. I was playing against the guy on the right side. He was on the left, I was on the right, I can't remember. Cafu, Dunga, Bebeto, Ronaldo, Rivaldo. I mean...
No biggie.
So there is an added pressure, I think, because the whole country's watching, and certainly we're back in Scotland. There is an added pressure that you do yourself justice. And I think we did that day, even though we lost a goal after 3 minutes, came back, and it was only an own goal with 10, 15 minutes to go, unfortunately from Tommy Boyd, that gave Brazil the 2-1 win. But it's hard to decipher the pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure from playing from your club. It's almost like you just don't want to let people down, which is, I suppose, a pressure in itself. Yeah. I don't think the Brazilians were quite as nervous as us, put it that way.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they weren't. For all, who need to move away in January the most? Cristiano Ronaldo, Hazard, João Felix or Pulisic, or another? What do you think, Mario?
Oh, all of them need to, but if I look at, okay, let's pick Pulisic, for example. I think if he's going through a journey of not playing for so long, as a player being in and out, I think you're losing also. It's not only like your happiness is gone, but also your energy is gone. He's too important for his national team, and everything that he's built so far, he now needs to be somewhere where he plays every week and not just get a week. One day I come on and one day I'm not. I think he needs to step away from that, because that journey is not bringing him any success. I think he won enough trophies, but sometimes it also eats inside there. Winning is always nicer when you're also performing, but if you're just winning, it's not always that beautiful to do.
Right. For all, do you think some of the World Cup coaches are taking risks by naming players to their squads that aren't fully fit, like Depay, Dybala, Bale? Do you have to pick certain players no matter what and hope that they are fully fit by the start of the tournament? What do you think, Ian?
Well, I think we've covered in the programme tonight talking about this. Yes, I think with the 26-man squad, and the reason we've got a 26-man squad, not 23, is because of the possibility of a COVID outbreak. But of course, the coaches will take advantage of that, and they can afford the luxury, I think, now, particularly if it's an important player. And we've spoken about Depay for the Netherlands. He is an important player. So if he's got a chance of being fit, say, by the third or fourth game, yeah, put him in. So it's a calculated risk and probably a good one.
I mean, I'm serious. I mean, this COVID thing. I mean, no, you know, nobody even bats an eyelid now, do they? Freaking COVID. It's a runny nose, isn't it? You know. So to go to the to go back to the squad thing. What was the question again?
About taking injured players in the squad.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to think about it from a player's perspective as well. If you've got a chance of playing in a World Cup and you've got a slight injury, you're just desperate to go. The risk is worth, the reward is worth the risk. Because I remember, you know, I played in Euro 96 and then I played in France 98 and I just had it was a given. I was going to play in Euro 2000 and then the World Cup in 2002 and we never made it back. We never made it back. And that was one big regret from that team that I was in. And so if you're an injured player, you're just desperate to go, and it is just so much worth the risk to be on that big stage, because it might come around. For some, it comes around all the time. Well, every 4 years, but it comes around regular 4 years. The country's making it there and they're having good World Cups. For some, it's not. For some, it's on a knife edge, a qualification. And so that risk for any, I think, some may view it differently. I think if it was me, even if I thought I was going to be out, the World Cup was going to cause me an injury for 2 months after it, I'm playing. Because it is such an iconic thing for any player growing up as a youngster to be able to go and do that. You're going to take those chances. Now, your manager will be on the phone going, listen, come on, you know, he's having a different, your club manager's got a different view. But boy, you're putting your, I wouldn't say your career on the line if you could, but you could put your season on the line to try and play in that, because you might not get another chance.
You can't disagree, hey Mario?
No, I don't disagree with Greg. 100%, 1,000,000%. Because when I was at Wigan, I remember we had a Euro, for example, and we had Steve Bruce as my manager. He goes to me like, Mario, plays one more game, and I'll leave you out. I get pulled on my arm and I pull my groin. It's just really hanging on the part of my bone, like really, won't go into detail too much, but at least I already told you. But that moment, I had so much pain, but I had an agreement with Marco van Basten that whatever would happen, if I could play a certain level, he would take me with him. That's why I'm not surprised that they said to the Depay a similar thing. I've trained so much, and I was in so much pain, but I did not care. Even if I had to pretend like I was in pain, I would go with the national team, because I promised myself, you don't want to retire your game of playing football and not playing or representing your nation. So that's why I carried on, and I ended up going to the Euro at that stage, because at the end, when I got there, I had another injury because it got sore again. But I didn't care. I was there.
Look at Mario keeping other players out.
He's a warrior.
Keeping other players out when he could have just said, I'm injured, shouldn't be going. Somebody's dream.
I gotta take it again.
Crushed.
I gotta take it.
Mario, let me stick with you. Do you think it's fair to give Potter 3 years to rebuild? Now that we are not in the same predicament as Arsenal was when they signed Arteta, we have better players and are the current Club World Cup champions.
Look, 3 years is always a big question, right? But with Arteta, as long as you see the club is moving forward, you can give people the time. But if the club is not moving forward, look, and I'm not talking about forward what we are seeing, because he's in that. He's seeing the things, he's seeing the talents that are coming across that can moving forward. If that's the case, oh yeah, give the man the time. If that is not the case, guys, we all have to be honest. That is what professional football does. It always questions you. Every time you got like a circle of 3 months or 2 months, we look at the games which you performed and see how you're doing. So that's why I will never be the guy that will say fire anybody. I will always support that person.
The current club world champions, that's amazing, isn't it?
I'm sure that was aimed a little bit towards you on the show.
Yes, I would imagine so. Go on, Ian.
I think Potter's contract isn't 3 years. I think it was 5. I think he did a smart deal. They wanted him, and he was able to call the shots a bit on that. So, I think that was part of it. 5 years.
5 years, long time.
Well, if he does get the old tin tack, at least he'll have the old Securicore van behind him when he pulls out the training ground.
That is true.
Fine. Load it up, lads. Get the money in. But, you know, you give him a transfer window and give him another transfer window and you see how it's going and you try and build. Or you have a continuation of the Abramovich era, which was sack, success. You know, it was successful. Very much the Real Madrid way in a sense, isn't it? And, you know, you come in, you have success and there's a few bad games and a few boos from the crowd and bosh, you're paying somebody off and you bring a new manager in, you're still paying the 4 managers from before, all that sort of stuff. You know, whether they continue to do that remains to be seen, I don't know.
Ian, that will answer a lot of questions for us as well about this new ownership.
What's that?
Like we were saying, we'll see what happens if you're giving long-term contracts and we'll see what they're going to do, right?
Yeah, we'll find out.
For Ian, you are a legendary commentator. Have you ever done commentary for a cricket match? Any predictions for T20 Cricket World Cup final?
Yeah, I've got a prediction. It's going to rain all day. they've been talking about the forecast for Melbourne, where this the World T20 Cricket Cup final is going to be held, and it's dreadful. And then there's a reserve day; they can play it the next day, and the forecast for that is dreadful. To answer your question, yeah, I've played cricket a lot of my life, actually, on a very low level, village green level, and I did do a little bit of cricket commentary once, but let's put it this way, I wasn't rehired, so.
A batsman or a bowler, Ian?
Actually, I used to bat a little bit and keep wicket.
So I didn't even realise is that going the T20 World Cup on at the moment?
You just need to ask Dan Thomas.
I know he's
Cricket FC Extra
Dan will know.
Well, finally he's an expert on something. Is that what you say?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought you said he knows nothing.
I was out for lunch with my esteemed colleague yesterday.
Ah.
Yes.
Plenty of backstabbing there then, was there?
We weren't talking cricket. We were talking a lot of things.
Did you have the blow darts out for all the other colleagues?
No, of course not.
Burley, yeah.
Better things to do with our
Nickel,
time.
yeah.
All right. Oh, this. You know what?
That's what I was sitting at home yesterday going like that. What the hell's this thing between my shoulder blades? Feels like a big knife.
Your right ear burning. What is it? Left for love and right for spite.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
There you go. Yesterday,
Who
Frank,
paid?
We split it.
Tight. He's tight, isn't he?
You can tell him when you next see him. Oh, my mum was there and his wife was there too, so yeah.
Sounds like a fun day.
Well, there was a lot of talking, let's say, especially with my mum there. Okay, we all
your mum was there as well?
Yeah.
My God.
We all know the betting favourites for this year's World Cup. Can you each give us one dark horse that could surprise and make a run to the finals?
Yeah, I'll give you one.
Come on then.
Denmark. No kidding.
Well, no, Ian's got Denmark, but I know that when he saw that Serbia squad, he's gone, oof, which I think a few people did, Ian.
Well, that's interesting because that's quite a tough group, I think, that Brazil have found themselves in. I'm not saying they're not going to get out of it. I'm pretty sure they will. But they've got Switzerland in there and they've got Serbia in there. Serbia have got a pretty strong squad, if you look through it, at the moment. So they could make an argument of it. Switzerland always do. So, yeah, have a look through. You see, Tadic is probably in his best form ever, isn't he? And I think he might be the captain. They've got Mitrovic, who's been banging in the goals for Fulham. They've got Vlahovic, who's a talented boy from Juventus as well, and Milinkovic, Savic, very good midfield player. So it's a good little squad, that. So, yeah, there are one or two. They're not going to win the World Cup, some of these outsiders. Denmark as well are in that argument. But they could upset some of those with aspirations to win it.
I'll tell you who else won't win the World Cup. Italy.
Oh.
You've got to be in it to win it.
If only Jorginho could have scored that penalty in that final game.
Does Ian know about Frank's predictions?
By the way, have you heard about Frank Leboeuf's World Cup bracket, Ian?
Yeah, I think he's got Denmark to win the World Cup, hasn't he?
Well, not only that, he's got the semi-final is actually Canada versus Denmark. And then he's got Denmark to beat Brazil in the final. But a few weeks ago, Denmark to beat Brazil in the final. Leboeuf, what's he been eating? A few weeks ago, I did say on the show here, when I asked for a dark horse, this was before the brackets, I said Denmark, because, I mean, you know, England, all these teams, other teams, Spain, they're not dark horses. But that was just a throwaway line. I'm kind of thinking now that LeBouf's somehow in France watching this show and has decided that he's following my, which is a big mistake.
Well, remember 1992, Craig, European Championships and Danish Dynamite and all that, where they came off the beach. They didn't even qualify for it. They were jettisoned in when the old Yugoslavia couldn't compete and ended up winning the European Championship.
Yes.
And they got to the semis of this latest one, didn't they?
But they're not a bad side, but tell me how many teams were at that 1992 European Championships?
It's probably 16 then. 16, 8, I don't know.
Was it not 8 back then?
You're putting Ian's commentator nerdiness to
He's a commentator, he should know this. Oh, I tell you what.
I think it was more than 8. I think it was more than 8 by 1992.
Hey, Derek Ray would have known the answer to that.
He would. He definitely would have done. And in German as well.
Yeah, there you are. Take that, Ian.
Derek would have known the answer.
Mario, who's your dark horse?
I would play Uruguay. That would be probably my call, because I was dictating to see, Ghana and Portugal. I had them as leading that group, but I wouldn't. Yeah, Uruguay could give me a bad pick, and maybe they go through and then take it all the way. So I will go with Uruguay.
I actually hope there's some Italian people watching this tonight, and just getting. I hope that's sort of stimulated.
Oh, you've tried to annoy every nation tonight.
Because everybody always says the same thing when you say something like that, because they take it personally, even though we don't see it as a personal attack.
Have you got a tick list? US,
it's just a bit of fun.
Italy,
US,
England.
The US are in the World Cup.
I know, but there's people that you're trying to annoy tonight.
They'll say to me, what about Scotland? As if that's a browbeat down. I'm like, what about Scotland?
The producer said it was 8 teams in 1992.
See?
Oh,
it was 8 teams in 92. The commentator didn't know. The geek didn't know.
Do you know what? We're going to have to let Ian Darke go back to the drawing board.
So put it this way. I don't think there's going to be a special edition of FC coming from Rome anytime soon.
Wow,
Not after Craig tonight.
I wouldn't rule it out.
You won't be getting it. You won't be getting an invite.
I think I'll invite myself. That's what I do. Are we done?
Yeah, we are done. Thanks so much for sending in your questions. We'll do it all again tomorrow.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.